Hello YouTube, I am Alex Licurdo. I make up exactly one half duo that is Stereo Input, a YouTube commentary channel of various things including but not limited to music, movies, superheroes, general nerd stuff, general cool stuff, and other such fun things. Today I'm here in my car trying to tell you about something that is very near and dear to my heart. That is Superman. Superman is and has always been my favorite superhero ever since I was a little boy. And that has brought me a great amount of joy and also a great amount of difficulty in that the world at large thinks Superman is lame as fuck. And to some extent, I can understand that perspective. My hope here today is to talk to you guys and maybe convince you that Superman is not actually as lame as he might appear at first glance. So the first common criticism of Superman is that he's overpowered. And yes, I do understand that it certainly does appear that way. The man's invincible. He shoots laser beams out of his eyes. He can fly. He can punch stuff. Depending on who is writing Superman, sometimes really isn't much he can't do. Some people have written him and given him telepathy, or the power to read and comprehend and learn at inhuman rates, making him smart, and just as smart, if not smarter than superheroes whose power it is basically to be smart, like Iron Man, Batman, and Mr. Fantastic. So I do understand the notion that Superman is just simply too powerful to be interesting, because quite frankly his power level is at or above most other superheroes that are at least commonly known. My defense to this is twofold. The first one being that yes, Superman is extraordinarily powerful, but so are his enemies, which always makes for an interesting conflict, because yes, you know, Superman is this demigod who flies around the world punching dinosaurs and that nonsense. But to be fair, his villains tend to be at or above that level of strength as well. Darkseid, in particular, is one of Superman's biggest villains, who is most likely at or above Superman's power level in terms of just raw strength and ability to do things that can hurt other things. In particular, his eye lasers are far and away better than Superman's in that they track you. They can't miss, except if you're Batman, because the only person who those lasers have ever missed has been Batman, because he's Batman. That said, Batman can't do a whole lot to Darkseid on a normal day. Sure, you know, you can put him in the Hellbat suit, you can give him a bunch of gadgets to make him fight Darkseid, but in general, who's got to deal with Darkseid if he shows up in the DC Universe? Superman and or the Justice League. Because quite frankly, he is such an imposing threat, not just by himself, but by the fact that he has an army of what's called parademons, these troops from Apocalypse, which is the planet that he controls. He is unstoppable. He is a god in and of himself. And so, while, you know, Superman, yes, he is absurdly powerful, so are his villains. And to say that, you know, Superman should be weaker in order to make him more interesting, then you lose out on a lot of what makes Darkseid threatening, because he is this world-ending, universe-conquering power. And in order to make him believably able to be defeated by Superman, you need to make Superman on the same playing field. Similarly, another hero who is like that is Doomsday. Another villain, rather, who's like that is Doomsday. How many other heroes are there who have been beaten to literal death by a villain just because the villain was stronger than that hero? I personally know of none. Yet the death of Superman in the 1990s shows that Superman is not invincible in an absolute sense. He actually can be killed, not by some kryptonite bullshit or some crazy plot device, but just by a regular guy who's just stronger than he is, which I think is incredibly compelling for the Man of Steel, because you know, you look at Batman competing with other people who are technically on his physical power level, and you know, he whoops these guys up, down, and sideways every day of his life. Whereas Superman, when he really does meet someone who is at or above his power level, it is a struggle. He experiences pain and difficulty in the trials of fighting Doomsday, and he eventually dies as a result of it. And now compare the fact that Superman can straight up just die as a result of finding someone who just has a bigger fist and a stronger arm. Compare that to the Incredible Hulk, who is physically incapable of dying. I'm not the biggest fan of the Hulk for a variety of reasons, most of which are the fact that I don't view him as a hero. I view him as the source of all of his own problems. Some people find that incredibly compelling, and that's absolutely fair. I just happen to not be one of those people. Another thing that bugs me with the Hulk is that written into his character is the fact that he can't die in most incarnations of the Bruce Banner Hulk, which to me is just, I don't get it. I don't like it. It's not even in the ridiculous sense where Deadpool can't die, and it's used as this sort of comic relief almost. You see, you know, Deadpool's little head on the ground after being beheaded. He's just mouthing off to whatever just killed him, and he grows like another body, like a starfish. I don't like the fact that he can't die, and when people complain to me that Superman is too powerful, it's frustrating, because I'm like, what about the Hulk? Literally, if we're complaining about someone being too strong, I don't think that someone should be Superman, for the reasons that his enemies are more powerful than he is, given at least a few of them. And there are other heroes who are, at least in the ability of withstanding and outlasting, are just straight up stronger than Superman, in the fact that they can't die. Wolverine is another one of those, but I supremely enjoy Wolverine. I think he's excellent. The other classic criticism of Superman is that he's a great big Boy Scout, which again is fair. You know, if you like these really dark, gritty anti-heroes like Batman, and you know, even if you like a silly, comical anti-hero like Deadpool, you're not going to get either of those things with Superman. You're not really, most of the time, even going to get a morally conflicted superhero, like Iron Man can be at times, particularly during Civil War. But I think what Superman does deliver is a sense of a traditional sort of hero, in that he always is able to deliver some sort of hope or some sort of positive feeling at almost every point in at least the larger stories that he's a part of, which I, for one, personally am a really big fan of. Because, for instance, one of my favorite scenes involving Superman, or a class of my favorite scenes involving Superman, are not scenes where, you know, he's smacking the shit out of, you know, some extra-dimensional alien powerhouse god thing. It's when he's hovering in front of a building, talking a girl down from suicide. There's a scene where he helps a lost little child find his or her mother when they get lost in a mall or in a theme park. And both of those scenes, I think, are something that a lot of heroes just simply can't pull off. And for whatever reason, I really enjoy those scenes. I think it shows you that being a superhero is about more than just beating up the bad guys, which is the route that people like Batman take. And to be fair, for Batman stories, that's fine. I wouldn't want to see Batman, you know, helping a little old lady cross the street, because that's not who he is. I want to see him beating up gangsters and fighting the Joker. But I think that Superman does deliver a lot in showing you that he is able to be super without being violent. He is able to help the world in ways that you and I can also help the world. Because, you know, it doesn't take Superman to help a little girl find their mother when they're lost. It doesn't take Superman to help someone in need, emotionally or economically or in any other way. It doesn't take Superman. And as a result of that, I think it's really inspiring how you can look at this alien demigod, you know, Kryptonian superhero, and you can find practical things that, you know, you can do to help the world around you. And I just think, you know, that's not to be discounted. My final real big reason for liking Superman is about who he is with his powers, and particularly how this relates to his conflicts with Lex Luthor, who is also one of my favorite comic book villains in history. So one of the things I love about Superman is that he grows up in not poverty, but definitely not upper class life, not even middle class life, honestly. He grows up on a farm in Kansas, and from my understanding of farms in Kansas as someone born in New York City, that's not a terribly glamorous life, and it's not a terribly prosperous life. But he has a go of it. You know, he who could honestly sell his blood, sell his genetic secrets out to the government, live lavishly for millions of dollars. He, you know, as a kid, sure, with his parents' supervision, but he willingly decides, I'm gonna live on a farm. Even though I can fly and shoot goddamn laser beams out of my eyes, I'm gonna live on a farm. There's something about him that has this nobility to it. And I think that really shows itself in his conflicts with Lex Luthor, because Lex Luthor is the traditional capitalist villain. He's this big, rich, old white man who uses his money, uses his influence to advance himself at the cost of everyone else around him, everyone else in the country, everyone else in the world. And when Superman fights him, it's really excellent, because when they go toe-to-toe, Superman never, ever is like, I'm fighting you because you have this money. I'm fighting you because you're not doing with this money what I think you should. And he never, even after Lex Luthor does some crazy bullshit science money thing, says, you don't deserve to have this money. He stops Lex Luthor, he puts him away via the proper authorities. And as a blue-collar sort of working-class hero, he's not all about taking what belongs to other people. Even if what belongs to other people may not have been acquired legally, may not have been acquired ethically, and may be used for nefarious purposes. Sure, we all know, as people who know that Lex Luthor is a villain, know that some of Lex Luthor's money he probably got illegally. Some of it he's probably using for some death ray hidden off in space or somewhere. But that doesn't mean you can just take it, unless you know for a fact. And Superman doesn't, and so he doesn't. He lets Lex Luthor maintain his resources after the end of every fight. And even when he inevitably breaks out of some high security prison, or is let go for some technical failing in the court proceedings, or whatever, he returns right back to his resources because Superman will not touch them. Which I think is compelling. I think that Superman sort of represents this blue-collar, sort of old working-class worker, just on a more powerful scale, obviously. But he's a guy who's willing to make the sacrifice, but not willing to make the moral compromise. The biggest comparison here is to Captain America. And I'm actually not a fan of Captain America for a variety of reasons. And the difference here, I would say, is that Captain America is necessarily bound to the concept of America, which is fine. I'm an American. I like living in America. It's cool as shit. But if you're going to have a character that is written as the American, someone who is Captain America, he should have all the virtues of being in America, you know, representing, you know, that flag, that country. But I also think he should have all of those defects. And I don't think that Captain America has them. Quite frankly, I haven't seen Captain America change in the 60 years, 70 years, probably more, honestly, that he's been around. He's been kicking as a comic book character, which to me is a little disappointing. You know, you read the early version of Superman, who I'm not a big fan of, and there's growth there. Old Superman used to just like throw shit around, just like obviously killing people, although not explicitly. There's no way the guy you just like randomly flung out into the middle of Metropolis didn't die when he was, you know, flying out of your fist at 100 miles an hour. There's no way. Comic book writers didn't need to show that he died. He definitely died. You know, now move that to modern day Superman, like in Man of Steel, where Superman is willing to kill General Zod to save other people, but he is conflicted about it. He is willing to make the ethical, he's willing to compromise his own morals in order to save someone else's life, which, sure, it's a bit of a gray area. He does kill the guy, but he's willing to take that on himself, to have that burden in order that other people might live. Again, in Batman vs. Superman, I find his dealing with Batman very well done. In general, I really enjoyed Batman vs. Superman. I thought it was an excellent movie. And me personally, most of the people who I've encountered who don't like Batman vs. Superman don't like Batman and or Superman. And there's your problem. But how Superman handles Batman, how he handles someone of lesser strength than him, is admirable. I mean, sure, at the final fight, he loses his patience. He slams Batman through like 2-3 buildings, you know. He throws him around a fair bit. But I do appreciate the fact that he explicitly states, if I wanted it, you would be dead already, because quite frankly, that is almost always the case when Superman fights other humans. My point being for this is that Superman is this sort of blue-collar working class ideal. He's someone who's willing to work with his hands, who may not know everything, who may not be a technical genius, but is willing to step forward, to lead, to say, I have an ability, I'm going to use it in order to make the lives of the people around me better. And he does that in every way he knows how. He does that by helping people affected by natural disasters, by helping little children find their parents, by beating the shit out of extra-dimensional aliens. At his core, Superman is someone who helps. He's not in it for the glory like an Iron Man character. He's not some troubled soul like a Batman character. And he's not a monster like a Hulk sort of character. He truly is one of the best versions, morally, ethically, of a superhero. He's willing to go against the authorities of the United States, particularly in his more recent comics and movies, particularly the New 52. He's willing to say, you know, I'm an American. I was born and raised in Kansas. I don't think it gets more American than me. But he's also willing to say that an overreach by the president is not American. He's willing to call out the authority figures as being as being un-American, being tyrannical, as being not good for the people. At the end of the day, Superman is a hero for the people. And I think that's compelling. You can definitely see this in the Red Sun comics, where Superman, it's an alternate universe story where what if Superman fell to the earth in communist Russia? Ironically, it's the most capitalist piece of literature I've ever read, for reasons I will get into in a minute. But you look at the differences between like historical Stalin and other communist leaders of Russia, and then you look to how Superman handles leading the Communist Party and becoming the eventual leader of the Soviet Union. Whereas people like Stalin really kind of abused the communist system. They acted as dictators. They lived relatively lavish lives while their people suffered in squalor. Superman was perfectly suited for a communist country because he was willing to do whatever it took to make the lives of his people better, and because of the inherent equity of the communist system, he was able to do that with unparalleled success. The communist Russia of the Red Sun comics was a utopia, no doubt. None of this work camp bullshit, you know, the state seizing other people's assets and forcing them to live in squalor. The people in Superman's Russia were truly equal. And that's actually pretty interesting. That's pretty excellent when you think about it. And you compare that to Lex Luthor, who in those comics becomes president of the United States, leads that country. And he combats Superman for himself. He competes with Superman to make the United States a utopia, to inflate his own ego, to prove that I, Lex Luthor, can make a better world, can manufacture a better existence than Superman can. And he, you know, they equal out in the end. They both create these excellent, wonderful utopias to live in which no modern society obviously will ever equal. But the reasons that they do it are obviously very varied, and Superman's handling of being a communist dictator was, I think, one of the truest markers of his character. He's willing to make sacrifices and put his whole life towards benefiting everyone, from, you know, your little, you know, your menial workers all the way up to, you know, the higher ups who lived with him in his palace as the leader of Russia. So all in all, I think that Superman is a lot more interesting than people give him credit for. I understand at first glance he does seem boring. He is the reason we have a lot of superhero tropes. He is the originator of a lot of those kind of overused cliches in comic book literature, because he is so iconic, and as a result he comes across as being stale, which I understand. I just hope that, you know, on a second look, on a deeper inspection of the character, the settings, and the situations that Superman finds himself in, we would all come to realize that, you know, sure, he might not be your favorite, and that's understandable. There are plenty of excellent comic book characters out there, in literature, Marvel, DC, and even independent comic writers like Image, particularly Invincible, excellent series. There are plenty of excellent characters out there, and while Superman might not be your favorite, you can at least say that there is substance to him. There is something of merit there. While it might not be your favorite thing, at the very least, it's not boring. That is my personal opinion on Superman, my favorite superhero. I hope that over time you would perhaps grow to have a new appreciation for Man of Steel. We hope to see you again on this channel for a variety of things, including but not limited to music reviews, movie reviews, comic book related superhero discussions, and anything else of interest and note that we might put out. Hope to see you again. I'm Alex, exactly one half of Stereo Input, and I'll see you all later.